Hello everyone, I'm posting January 23rd, 2022 Lightline USA. It was phenomenal. I hope you enjoy listening to it. And if you wish to plug into the live system, please go to soraraforum.org to get the information on how to do that. Thank you again for listening and God bless you.
This is the USA Lightline for Sunday, January 23rd, 2022. I'm Ron Besser, your host, and Phyllis Simpson is your co-host today as well. We have now 21 on the direct call. Since I can't see the streaming, I assume it's still 4, as reported about a minute ago. This is Tarkus, Ron. I am your MC. And welcome, Tarkus. I'm very glad to hear you. You're most welcome, and please continue. Yes, the light lines have been disrupted almost entirely for a steady week. You admit you do not know the true condition that Urantia is dealing with and posted such this morning. And I must say you get almost no interest because people are tired of reading the evaluations. You feel that that is almost the end of the discussion forum and are being more or less conditioned in your own mind to dispense with it. No one is using it for discussion anymore. They're using it for a Lightline connection. And probably that's the best way we can do it, at least at this particular point. Now let me say this. I am one without name and number. I am of the Paradise regime, as are several other of us who are trying to keep the connection at least open, if not working. Amethyst and Lemuel had problems even getting an MC in their light lines this week. We don't know the situation with Clancy for the simple reason we heard nothing from Clancy on Friday. However, we see he has posted a tape, so that means it probably was held, but we have no evidence up here on the Salvington circuits. Furthermore, Renee, you are getting into the same blind spot. Make sure, Renee, that when you open your Phoenix Lightline tonight, that you ask for an MC and don't just wait for one to appear. Please ask for it. Fully understood, Ron. Let me provide you a statement as to condition. Urantia has been snubbed once more by an overwhelming number of Lucifer personnel who we thought had been adjudicated, but now are returning to their old position and attitude. Ron says, you will not win. You will not provide him any information, and that he is perfectly ready to close things down and wait until they are removed. We expect they will be removed, but until the Ancients of Days decide exactly where we stand with the proposed missions, as well as the idea of WTP, as well as the idea of the second return, we are very carefully remaining neutral. There is a proposed meeting today with you, Ron, and Christ Michael. That will take place, hopefully, on Lightline. If it doesn't, then post the transmission that results to the discussion forum for whatever good it may do. There are over 90 members listed on the discussion forum. At most, at any one time, there are 4 making use of it. We now believe that the Lucifer rebellion and its influence is heavily marked upon your own decisions. It is so subtle, you do not know it's operating. Ron tells you that in his post, but for the most part, it is ignored. For that reason, Ron says, I'm up to here with non-participation, for the simple reason you will never fully understand the condition or the situation if you do not participate. And for that reason, we are now ascertaining that the Salvington government is now looking at the Lightlines themselves and the hosts and trying to determine their attitude toward Lightline and what they think about not being able to service for the lack of universe participation. Ron has specifically asked that this Lightline today go through and that I be the master of ceremonies. But he is also aware that unless I am available and unless the magisterial sons are available, he's going to have to wing it by himself, and he prefers not to, as many of you prefer not to yourselves. For that reason, Ron, we are now transferring you to Amadon. If you're there, Amadon, please go ahead. You're most welcome. Thank you. This is Amadon, Ron. Thank you. Always the present protocol that works so well with us. The truth of the matter is that the meeting today, known as USA Lightline, is proposed to be scrubbed in about 10 minutes. That is not the Lucifer rebellion. That is Christ Michael, who insists that the USA Lightline on Sunday and the parallel Lightline on Tuesday with Phyllis be presented as the existing communication between the so-called good guys and the insurrection out of the way, because we can knock them out. For that reason, the other light lines, we ask that they be held, but that you're going to have to make a strong effort to get your MC and a regularly scheduled participation running. You, the audience, must be exceedingly useful by participating, and when there is a time for you to speak, for the simple reason that when you speak, it strengthens the connection to the spiritual circuitry. Now here is Christ Michael. Thank you, Amadon. Welcome, Christ Michael. Thank you, Ron. I am Christ Michael. I happen to agree fully with what Ron said today in the post. For those of you who take the attitude, it will take care of itself, sorry to say it won't. If you wish the strength of a group to be understanding as to the situation and the means of communication, then please participate. We see that Sue Wiley has again gone off on a toot that more or less brands her as out of the loop. If she wishes to participate more, she's got to step up to the plate and swing at the ball of a Lightline, or at least a transmission with those who do contact her. I am Christ Michael, and for that reason, I want you to listen carefully, for the simple reason that there is no good reason to obtain a Lightline when the major part of the universe has to stand down because of the defiance of a old-fashioned and broken Lucifer rebellion. The adjudication did not work. They are still at it. And for that reason, we now eliminate. That is up to the ancients of days and their processes. Meanwhile, Ron, WTP is not under any order to proceed, but you are pressing to be recognized on Urantia. That you did very well on Friday. Today, Sunday, they are looking at the email you sent the Department of Energy and are reasoning that you probably have it working very well. The truth of the matter is they scrubbed all funding for WTP on January 2022, and your email came in January 21, 2022. You point out you made one remark on January 18th to them, and they are looking at that to see if it will fall under the funding program still in effect as January 18th, 2022. You may be all right. And for this reason, Ron, you smile and say, it's just one more synchronicity of things going wrong all the time. I have no way of forcing it to operate correctly, whatever it is. This is Michael, Ron. You're not wrong, but it has been rescinded. Now this. You used Dominic to help you out on your planning commission, and he has more or less decided he can do that so long as there is plenty of support. He has the support, and you wish him to continue it. However, the Planning Commission is now of the opinion that for Michael to speak directly, it should be through not individual Planning Commission members, but through you individually, Ron. And you, Ron, counter that by saying that each individual transmitter produces a slightly different review from the Creator Son and must be made available to the tape for evaluation later on. You learned a few things on this past Thursday because of Dominic's use of individual planning commission members to speak the Michael connection. It must continue that way to those of you who are on the planning commission and most attend on this Lightline today. Furthermore, Dominic, you have won great praise from Ron. You have stepped up to use the voice of God in a way that is particularly helpful with a group. You have broken through a ceiling, and Ron wishes you to continue that for your own excellent development. Now this. As Christ Michael, I want to tell you the following. Number one, the requirement for a second return has always been voluntary. That is, the second return is voluntary for Jesus to perform. We do not order it. We dare not order it. Jesus has reported back that you, Ron, feel a great emptiness there. Do not feel that. What you feel, Ron, is the lack of psychic information you depend on to stay the course. The thought adjuster has removed it to protect you. You have been grateful to adjuster, and you know darn well he is holding back. And what you get infuriates you as a false father. And many other voices that frankly are baboons. For that reason, you close them down, and adjuster supports you. Now this. We are now recognizing that the entire matter of the Christ Michael dispensation that is being offered to Urantia is ignored primarily by people on Urantia. Ron reported that in the Post this morning. You haven't read it. The truth of the matter is that we are looking at removing the discussion forum for the simple reason it's not being used, other than for Lightline schedules and tape posting. Dominic has made a Lightline, or rather a website, available that will serve that purpose very well without this discussion forum. We will continue to evaluate it. But if you don't want to use it, don't pretend. And eventually it will be pulled down. And finally this. As Christ Michael, I want you to understand that the forces that would allow the healing of Ron's terrible condition are withdrawn for the simple reason they cannot withstand the attack of the forces of either the insurrection cabal or the Lucifer rebellion personnel. Urantia is flooded with them again. Ron knows it very well, and those of you who are hosts of Lightline know it very well too, because the difficulty of running a normal Lightline is very high. And that is because they are attacking the hosts themselves. We suggest to the hosts, keep at it, but expect nothing but trouble for a while. We do not know how to tell you what to do about it, but Ron has given you a good indication how to get around it. Use it. And one last thing, I have an announcement. This is Michael of Nebadon. The following announcement is particularly nasty to the insurrection and probably will remove the Lucifer rebellion remains. We never understood that the adjudication placed in force by the Ancients of Days was failing. But now that it has, I've changed my attitude. It's this. Starting this morning, when Ron tried to get out of bed and couldn't, we decided that the entire matter of his resurrection, if you want to call it that, was a broken measure, once again, spoken to and blocked by the insurrection. In the meantime, it's just going downhill, worse and worse. He honestly feels that the Lucifer rebellion and the insurrection are fully in charge around him, and that he cannot make a single step that is progressive without help from the cavalry. That is the Salvington government and the forces that it can put into the field. We happen to agree that the cavalry is in Salvington and not on Urantia, because the planetary government has been mowed over again by a huge horde of seraphic duty personnel that have no choice but to destroy what has been rebuilt, at least in their view. Ron more or less has discredited anything to do with a voice that attempts to explain it, for the simple reason it is a selfish voice, and he knows it. Furthermore, the trial to keep me in frequency, Ron, is fine. I feel slippage, Michael. Don't worry about it. Continue. Thank you. The frequency you are on, Ron, is super high. Very few can accommodate that, even in the insurrection. You have been brought up to snuff this morning in order to receive that frequency. And now you're performing it very well. Let me also state this as number 2. The trial that is afforded by the Lucifer rebellion has been adjudicated before. And there's a little number that you forget, that if there is a return to the rebellion, there is an automatic depersonalization that will follow. We are going to put that into effect. That's over 1 million seraphim, 325,000 divine sons, and a number of personnel unrevealed that must be withdrawn from Urantia momentarily. That's just to give the human audience a chance to see the scope. And the odd thing, it's mostly on Urantia that they are gathering. For that reason, Ron more or less reflects the fact that it was the bestowal of Jesus in the first place that so got in the way of the nefarious plans of Lucifer. His hatred determined the destruction of Urantia even after his supposed death. That appears to be acting now, Ron, and you are not in the slightest removed from speaking the truth. I am the Universal Father. Finally, we have a man on Urantia who knows the difference between an insurrection and the ignominious decree of pure sin and evil to the point that paradise cannot even see them. They are useless. I want it to be understood that Ron is trying to find a word I don't want to be used. And we let it lie, Ron. As you will, Father. Thank you. The truth of the matter is that we are going to clear Urantia even if we have to cut off our nose to spite our face. And that, as Ron says, almost is ludicrous, except if you dislike something so much, you give up something to get what you dislike out of the way, and you hurt yourself a little bit. Well, we will. With all those personnel being destroyed, we don't have enough to run the missions. God help us. Since I am God, I will help myself, Ron. Thank you. And I want it to be understood, Ron, that your trial with the Department of Energy is not over. They now see what you have and are utterly amazed they never thought of how to do it until they saw what you showed them. I hope they can make amends quickly enough to get this built. I am the Universal Father. I have spoken. Christ Michael, we ask you, how do you attend my remarks now? I withdraw. We thank you, Father. Yes, Christ Michael, if you will. Thank you, Ron. The truth of the matter is I am fully supporting what the Father has to say. They are arraigned around you, all around you right now, Ron. You detest them. They have no voice. They have no power. They have no real way to discriminate against good. One by one, they are being removed again. We did this on Saturday. We did it on Friday. We did it on Thursday. We'll do it again. The truth of the matter is that you have broken through finally to the official mind in Washington, D.C. with a wonderful email that simply asks them, can you help build this for a proof of demonstration of the concept? They looked at it at first and said, I don't know what you're talking about. Then they saw your drawing. It is a perfect drawing to explain how you do it. The problem is your underground cable is huge. What do you say to that? Christ Michael, I had to use what I had to use to find. There was no small illustration to show a cable and its connection. And I had to use the size given. To reduce the size created an additional graphics problem that the cabal was using against me. Fully understood, Ron. I do more fully understand it now. That can be easily spoken to. It's just a bauble in what you would call a balanced relationship of size. And that is nothing. It can be easily spoken to. Thank you, Ron. I further see it is in what you would call a restraining bracket. Yes. I'm, of course, concerned by that for the simple reason it may cause electrons to ground themselves. And that's exactly what it would do if that cable structure would use, Ron. But it is useful to show the cable. That's correct. And that's why I used it. Fully understood. Now this. We smile with Ron because the illustrations he uses, he has to find what's close. He can't draw precisely what is presented in most of the drawings of WTP. So he uses what can be placed in support of what he wants to show, and he does show it very well. Now this to you, Ron. The Department of Energy has rooted through to the United States Patent Office and asked them why they are taking so long. And what did they say, Michael? Father says they have not said anything because the patent has been issued and Ream is about to send it to you next week. Do you think you can live long enough? Michael, I am not sure how long I can live. It's all out of my hands. Yes, I'm sorry to say it is. The truth of the matter is you got up this morning wondering what in the heck they were doing with the kind of dream that was presented. All I can answer, Michael, is yes, I'm still wondering. Tell them what you were doing in the dream, Ron. I was walking in what looked like a series of stores in a mall. And I was bent over picking up pennies and quarters off the floor. It went on and on and on until I hit a ditch. I could go no further, and the dream ended. Now, Michael, you tell me, please, what that could possibly mean. It means nothing, Ron, and you fully laughed at it when you got awake. But you got quite a few quarters. Yes, there were quite a few around on that floor. Yes. And why do you think it was quarters that you picked up so many of? I haven't a foggiest idea. The truth of the matter is that is not a cabal, that is the deity absolute, pointing something out to you that you have done all your life. You have done the best you can to stay alive and support yourself by picking up what you could job-wise to keep you running, to keep food on the table, a roof over your head, and yada, yada, yada. You never realized that you have lived hand to mouth most of your life. Then suddenly you come across a huge, what looks like a highway, but has been excavated down that you can't even walk across the tire marks left by the road graders. And it was muddy. What do you think you were looking at? Well, certainly the end of quarters. There was no such thing to go on with. My comment to myself was, this has been so interfered with, it is useless to go further. And that is exactly what you were to conclude, Ron. Here is the deity absolute to speak to a ridiculous dream, but you read them well because you know that Spirit uses them to instruct you. I am the deity absolute. We welcome you, deity absolute. Speak as you wish. Thank you. I do enjoy your protocols, Ron. They are kind and make it ready for me to speak easily. You can no longer afford for payments of nickels and quarters and pennies off the floor that you always pick up and say, people who throw pennies away have got to be crazy. Are they that well done? I'll pick every one up and spend it. Thank you. And that has always been your attitude, Ron. Give me what I can use and I will use it. Then suddenly you hit the deep ruts of what stopped you from looking and saw a ditch, a muddy ditch too high to come across. That's not God the Father, or the Son, or the Spirit. That is an insurrection that has tried to kill you. They have stopped all income. They have stopped all hope. But now we are here to assure you there is no longer an intervening ditch. You are to provide the world with an experimental electricity system. It not only will be WTP, but we're going to design it in such a way that your drawing, while appearing accurate, is going to be modified a little. You will go for another patent? Not. The patent that is issued is sufficient to protect you. Now this, the Department of Energy will want to interview you. You're going to ask them to come to York for the simple reason you're crippled. For that reason, they will make a special amend and bring you to Washington via one of their transport systems. This is truly the day of the absolute, Ron. You have sufficient room in your backyard to land a helicopter. Do you think they might bring you that way? Yeah, you scare the bejabbers out of my neighbors. Those things are extremely loud, and they can knock down a fence with their noise. It's so awful. Yes. So they probably won't use that. What will they use, Ron? Well, I hope they come and sit around my dining room table. Yes. And we hope that happens too. But the President of the United States is soon to learn this through the Department of Energy and the Defense Department. One moment, people. Just a minute. I'm doing some clarification. This is Michael of Nebadon, Ron. You are correct. Well, this is devastating. You have no choice, apparently, but I do. There must not be one bit false of information. I won't tolerate it. Neither will you, Michael. How do we correct this, and do we get rid of that insubordination? No. This is not Michael of Nebadon. This is the Lucifer Rebellion. They cannot maintain service to you, Ron, but I can maintain service to them, Lucifer Rebellion. You're snubbed off. Ladies and gentlemen, I am stopping the transmission on this particular subject, in fact, all subject, until the truth can be reestablished. I will not transmit further. But I will say this to the group. We will attempt to promote a normal Lightline today by scrubbing the transmission and going over to discussions with yourselves and your natural curiosity and questions. I've got enough of a mind left without that goddamn group to speak to you, I think. So we're cutting the transmission. We're going to go to Q&A right now. If you've got something to say or question, punch 5 star on your keyboard. We will answer you. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Phyllis.
I see your hand, Jose. You're now unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ron, I want to ask a question regarding these evil forces. I say evil forces to group them all. You said earlier that they do interfere with the other hosts. And my question is, do those evil forces also, can they influence us, the participants in these Lightlines, directly?
They can. I don't think it has been successful. But I do notice that the hosts sometimes have to do a refreshment or a double take to get back onto a course they are comfortable with. When the cabal interferes to the transmitter, he finds his mind questioning how successful is his connection to the truth. Most of them stop, ask for a refreshment, and that usually knocks the cabal out. Right now, we've got a serious situation on Urantia, Jose, in that the numbers alone are forcing, let's call it the atmosphere of spirit, in which people stand back, do not think they are useless, think they have no say, and as a result, no participation. You've got to break it by participating, at least in the faith of what you believe to be true. Right now, Jose, it is very serious. I will not tolerate it, and I will use every means at my disposal to upset them. That's the best I can answer you, Jose, right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ron.
Sure. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Yes. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Ron, can you tell me what was the last announcement that was true? That is to say,
Lemuel, anything to do with WTP, just knock it out.
Okay.
Anything before that happens to be true.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Go ahead, Phyllis.
Yes, I'm now coming to you, Renee, and then Elise, and then Stephen Gitz. You're unmuted, Renee. Go ahead.
Thank you. It happens to be very awful, this interference that we are having. And I did have one experience with one envoy from the Lucifer that really upset me very badly. I understand completely how Ron feels, because when you face one of those guys telling you they're not going to have a minute, or they're not going to quit doing what they're doing, then we feel completely powerless, in the sense that they're going to stop. But then we ask our Father to protect us. And I replied to one of those guys, let me tell you that they said that they wouldn't never stop doing what they're doing. They'll never give up. And I say, okay, you can kill anybody you want, anybody, but you're going to end up at the end losing your life, and that you better repent yourself and leave us alone. And then Father, Universal Father, interjected and he said, Rene said, okay, you guys need to stop and then stop bothering my children. And I want to tell you guys that I have faced those things also, and it's very disgusting. Thanks, Father, for being always at our side. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Renee. And I thank you for reporting that, and it's great support to show the people that the insurrection and the rebellion itself has no real sense of how to deal with strong human individuals who refuse to be indoctrinated. Just keep up the good work. Don't stop your work, Renee, but just always be sure that you aren't being sniggered by a rebellion, and depend on your Father. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Thank you, Renee. I'm now coming to, yes, Elise. 1 second. You're unmuted, Elise. Go ahead.
Thank you, Phyllis. Well, I have two things. Well, I can tell you that I had yesterday and today, while I was working on the Crown book, I have had a lot of trouble just typing. A lot of trouble with my keyboard. I had to type the wrong letters all the time. If I would, for instance, have to type a yo and an O and a U, it was the other way around, and I had that with many letters. So I don't know if it was the rebellion, but I told them to stop as long as I'm working, and otherwise I would stop the work. That's one thing. And the other thing is a question. How is it possible that after adjudication, a final adjudication, and decisions are being made, and they're sent to prison, or maybe those entities are executed, how is it possible that they return?
Elise, first of all, about the adjudication. Many lost their lives in 1986 when the Ancients of Days adjudicated the Lucifer Rebellion. Millions died. But there were multi-millions that were left off for good behavior on their own say-so. It is an agreement between the court and those individuals that punishment will be found more if they break the contract and their word. What you learn today is that many have broken their word. The millions that were left off on their own behavior. Now, when it comes to the interference with the keyboard, at least I've got it all day long. Letters backwards. Extreme pressure, I can hardly get a type in. Constant correction. That is a cabal that is trying to disrupt your nervous system. They do it to me, now they're doing it to you, and don't be surprised, others, that when you are working with the Magisterial Foundation, which is what you're doing when you're doing your book, Elise, you are fully disrupted if they can get in sideways, and they're doing so. I've now been putting up with it severely for the past 7 days. I have requested a destructive resolve to remove them if they cannot be resolved and removed by word. so far, there is nothing that they behave for, but are determined to destroy not only the missions, Elise, but the people who support them. That includes you. It includes me, Renee, Amethyst, Lemuel, Clancy, and all down the line. You cannot stop working in spite of this and be heard again, people. Now, Elise, you are very slow to understand that humans can be affected by the ill will of a group of individuals that can use chicanery and murder to remove you as they removed Jesus. How strong are you? Don't be foolish, but at the same time, be persistent. That's all I can tell you, Elise. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, and I'll be persistent, Ron. I can tell you that.
Thank you. I had a feeling you would be, Elise, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yes, Philip. Go ahead.
Yes, we're going to Stephen Gitz now, and then Wade Vu. Stephen, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Amethyst. Ron, I follow up on Lemuel's query about when the talk on WTP was discontinued or invalid all the way. The report on the Department of Energy and Defense, is that also included in hearsay?
No, they're pointing out what the president uses to go from the White House to Edwards Air Force Base, for instance, and that's a helicopter off the lawn. You'll notice there's no trees, no fence, no nothing around it. A helicopter is a hellish noise in your backyard. All I did was point out that it is strong enough to destroy something lightly put in, and God knows what the neighbors would take it as. I don't think it's a good idea, although I would love it. I don't think it's a good idea. And no, don't even consider it other than just looking at it.
Okay. And what about the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense having a new interest or a beginning of an interest in WTP?
The Department of Energy has a new email. I do not know the reaction literally, but okay. Michael himself said they took notice. Beyond that, I have no other information.
Yeah. Okay, very good to hear, I think. I hope it doesn't get political, you know. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, I happen to agree with you. I do not know how we stand.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
I'll be the first to tell you if there is anything back.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay, I'm going to mute you now, Stephen. Then we're going to Wadevu and Dominic, and those are the last two hands I see raised. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, 5-star. Wadevu, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Ron. My question is with the WTP. When using muons, what else can muons be used for? Because I noticed you had a statement about that they could be used for other things.
Could be used for the what?
Muons.
Yeah, but you said used for what?
Well, I had read your statement that muons could be used for other things.
Oh, for other things? Because I heard it as for the bank.
Oh, no.
Yeah, by the bank, certainly. Muons. Let's compare the electron with the muon just to give you the idea of what we're talking about. An electron is a stone. A muon is a butterfly. That is the greatest difference between preparticles as you can get. You can make the muon fly up a tower leg, and the electron just falls off. You can't move them up. The old Tesla idea was to move electrons up, but what he didn't realize was they fell off the tower as soon as he tried to move them. In any case, a muon is electrically charged like the electron, and as a result can make it behave like electricity. But it is also anti-gravity. I haven't talked much about it, for the simple reason that's a whole separate project. But stop and think about it. If you had an engine that could, under pressure, spray muons out the exhaust, you could make that craft speed almost up to the speed of light, and without ever needing fuel again to do it. That is a future project, Wade-a-Voo, using muons. I have nothing really more to report except they work in engines.
Wow. I already see a fleet of ships flying out. All right. My next question. The Jesus administration, when Jesus comes, he has his own administration as it operates as a divine government. But in your book, it's the vow concerning international trade. He pointed out that Jesus would have nothing to do with the Italian Vatican ever. And I was seeing the Vatican as the base of the Catholic faith. I just wanted to know, why is that? Or could you elaborate on it?
The book did not go into the insinuation. The book could have been 3 times longer than it was if I had gone into things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what probably they're talking about is that give unto Caesar that which is Caesar, give unto God that which is God. The Vatican has no business in trade. That is Caesar's work.
Mm.
I think what they may be doing in that vow is indicating to you a return to that which is God must be attended to by God only, and that man's interference as evolutionary religion must be removed. That is the insinuation.
Oh,
if there is anyone up there that wishes to speak, you're most welcome. This is Father Ron. Not only have you precisely defined it, but you have precisely given me the idea that you're quite capable of using the insurrection to good if you can find a way into it. That answer is fully supplied by the insurrection, and you are purposely cutting off any transmission from them. What do you say, Ron? They must be silenced. I will not transmit them. And any information that is helpful, I'm sure they regret. Thank you. Thank you, Ron. We stand adjourned. Yes, Wade-a-Voo.
That was all right. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Yes, Phyllis.
I'm coming to Dominic right after I mute Way to Vu, and I will say that I see no other hands raised other than Dominic's. Go ahead, Dominic.
Thanks, Phyllis. Can you hear me?
Fine.
Great. My comment is it's related to the written word in the forum and participation of the commission meetings further explained in that I get the impression the written word is more or less on notice, as in it doesn't serve a spiritual participatory experience or purpose. So reading and following along with the forum or the Lightlines it doesn't serve Christ Michael's purpose. And the reminder is that it begins and ends with him, and he can't do that with the written word as it is interacted with, or so to speak. And therefore, everyone's participation is honored and welcome and demanded in place of the written word, so to speak. So that is been done last week in the commission meeting, but it is done in our voice participation, our in-person participation, and that allows a spirit connection. That's all.
All right, Dominic. I remind everyone that the website that we use says discussion forum. That doesn't lessen the obligation to use it as such or more, but it does ask that you participate with discussions. What is happening, and I fully agree that it has happened without an expectation, is that the Lightlines tend to trump the information that you may normally wish to discuss as a written text. I cover that in the post I made this morning and only state that maybe that is a net result and it will go into our evaluation. I do have Michael of Nebadon here with regard to the post itself and the use of the written text as you speak to, Dominic. First of all, I'm Michael of Nebadon. I am solidly entrenched in Ron's mind right now. No one can get in. Let me point out something to you, Dominic. The discussion forum goes back to 2003. It was revised as you see it now about 2012 or 2013 and has proceeded to establish itself not only with the written text but with a spoken word Lightlines. For that reason, there is a certain holdover of the methods of discussing and understanding the processes we are using trying to provide a mission to Urantia. For that reason, it is totally valid and needs participation. So long as we've got a Sue Wiley and several others of you being preferential to not participating based on pique over how things are done, we may eliminate it for the simple reason that we will rise another website by invitation only. And then we expect full participation, not only in the Lightlines, but in the written texts. I fully agree with Ron that it is too soon today to look at it, but in another month it may be necessary for events we are convinced will have Ron sitting quite well with himself, WTP, and the discussion forum. I am now Michael of Nevadon, and I'm speaking in finishing this Lightline as we are now over our hour, and thank you, Dominic, for your words. The truth of the matter is that we are now ready to shut this down for the reasons we have exhausted our time slot, and that we have additional information, not only for Ron, but for Dominic, that he should avail himself when he is ready to. I am now leaving this Lightline for Sunday, January 23rd, 2022, and we're going to call it over. We're simply going to fade out. We thank every one of you, and please stop the tape, Ron. I certainly shall. One moment, please.